welcome to my tutorial. Go check out my website for more tutorials, bnw.io. I'm going to be adding a lot of stuff, and so this is the first of what's hopefully many to come tutorials. I'm going to cover Rails. This entire series is going to be on Rails, and in this tutorial we're going to cover basic test-driven development and setting up Rspec testing environment and using Factory Girl. It's going to be pretty basic, but hopefully you can still learn something even if you're intermediate, advanced. I know I did when I was looking at the new Factory Girl syntaxes and whatnot. So anyways, I've got a brand new Rails 4 project here that I just created, and I think I just bundled, so I'm just going to mate this, and I'm going to paste in some code. Let me make sure to get this in so you can see what's on the screen. Yeah, I'm going to paste in some code that I usually start with testing. Set up my testing environment. If you set up your testing environment in advance, it'll help a lot, and I'll show you why. Bundle, and then we need to paste into the application, config-application. This is what will help you. So this will override your default generators to set up Rspec and Factory Girl. So when you do Rails G model, it will give you a factory as well as a spec, put it into the spec directory, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, with that said, it is time we should be able to create our models. No, you know what we need to do? We need to create a spec helper. So I'm going to go paste in a spec helper real quick. No, we should just create models first, actually, because then it'll create the spec directory for us. Okay, so 1 second, struggling. Okay, so we're going to create our product model. I didn't show you the database, what it's supposed to look like. Get into that in this tutorial, but price, cost. We're going to have an order which belongs to a customer as well as, and yes, it'll have many transactions. So transaction will belong to a product, belong to an order. And so when you go to a website and you buy something, you'd have a shopping cart, that's your order, and then the individual units that you purchased would be the transactions, right? So you buy 1 pair of shoes and 1 pair of pants. Those would both be transactions, and they would both have an amount. And then we need to calculate the order total and store it based on the total amount of the transaction. So that's kind of what we're going to be going for here. So anyways, let's go ahead and generate our models. And yeah, so I'm going to paste in these generator commands, but I'll explain. So we're generating model product, name, string. You can pass third parameter. It'll add the index to the database column for us. Price, decimal, 10 squiggly 10-2. What that does is it will give us a what is the term? A scale of 2 and a precision of 10. So what that means is that our entire string can be no more than 10 characters long, and then the trailing 2 decimals can only be 2. So obviously, maybe that's not the best thing to do here, because I guess if you're calculating a bunch of different prices, you would want the exact precision, but we need to round at some point anyways. Who cares? I'm babbling. Not important. So we are going to go ahead and paste in some more generator commands. Generate the order model, and then the transaction, and then customer, super basic, right? All right, so now we should be able to run rakedb migrate Rails equals test. What? Okay, we need to paste in some Rspec helper code. Oh, did I bundle? Okay. All right, so I just pasted in some Rspec helper code off screen that I'll put in the blog post. Here it is right here. And oh yeah, by the way, if we can look at what the Factory Girl created for us by default here. So yeah, it just assigns default attributes to what we pass into the generator. And we've got all our specs, so everything's all set up all nice like. So yeah, we should be able to go db migrate and rakedb, no, create. So, 1 second. All right, reason it blew up is because I pasted this into the wrong file, like an idiot. Okay. Now will it blow up? I guess I could just push up, but whatever. All right, yay. Okay, let's go add some color to our Rspec. Okay, so to add color to it, we just need to mate a file called, so we're in the Rails project. At the root of the Rails project, we want to mate.rspec. Wow. If I could type, and yeah, we just pass -- color. And now our test should have color, which really I can't read when everything's the freaking same color there. So there we go, we've got color. So we've got a failing test. All right, that's what we want. So what we want to do is we want to create failing tests so that we know what we're testing. So we know what we're fixing, so we have a to-do list of things to do. That's kind of the basic idea of test-driven development, right? So yeah, let's write some more failing tests to find our association. So let's go ahead and order should have many transactions, right? It should many nope, it should belong to a customer. All right, so go run those, make sure they fail, and survey says failed. That's good. So yeah, so now let's see, product should have many transactions. Transactions should belong to a product. Order should, yeah. So let me go paste in some code here. Now, another thing that the shoulda matchers give us is we can do it should validate presence of order ID. It should validate, whoa, product ID, right? We want to make sure that it's assigned to a order and a product. Otherwise, we'd have a floating transaction that means nothing. A transaction should represent an actual sale of an item. It should not exist without either of those contexts. So we're just going to keep it simple and validate presence of the order ID. So yeah, so now I think that's pretty much our, oh, customer should have many orders, I believe, right? Customer spec. So now we've got this, all these failing specs, which is good because now we have a to-do list of exactly what we need to do. So failure, product, it should have many transactions. So let's go make that pass. So we go into our models, product has many transactions, right? And belongs to, order belongs to a customer. Order has many transactions. Customer should have many orders. I'm going to paste in the rest of this because I don't know how helpful this is now that we've gone through a couple and done it. So, pausing. All right, so I just pasted in a couple more associations. So transaction belongs to product, belongs to order. Product has many transactions. Yeah, you can see them here. So the other thing, customer, oh, well, let's go see what happens now. So most of those should be passing, right? Except for the validation. We haven't set up validation yet. So bam, we've got, yeah, exactly 6 passing and 2 failing. Transaction, it should validate presence of order ID. So yeah, basically, if you don't know, the shoulda matchers, so basically what it does is it checks, it's just, doing some metaprogramming and setting up, it's checking the object to see if the errors include can't be blank. We could manually do that, obviously, right? We could do it and then describe the behavior itself, and then below that in that block we could make sure we could create an order and make sure that if it doesn't have order ID, we get those errors back. That's all it's doing, is wrapping up that implementation. So yeah. Transaction, was it? Yeah, transaction. It should validate presence of. So validate validate, or is it validates? Validate. I always second guess myself on camera. Okay. What? There we go. Example 0 failures. All right. So, customer. Let's go add more validation. An expectation first. So, customer, we may want to get their transactions directly from the customer object, right? So, it should have many transactions through orders. So, just more on the how nice that syntax is with the shoulda matchers. So now we need to go create that. Through transactions. Has many transactions through orders. Retarded. Yeah. And we'll see what we get. 9 examples, 0 failures. All right, good. So now let's check out some behavior. So first thing we need to do is transaction. So let's define how that's going to work. We're going to have products. The amount of the transaction should be set based on the price of the product, or the active price. But in this case, we're not going to get into putting things on sale and discounting and blah, blah, blah. We're just going to have when you create a transaction, since it's assigned to a product, it's going to copy over the price of the product itself and use that as the amount field. So what we do is we set the subject. Subject just means the subject that we're testing, the main test subject. And so sometimes I'll set a subject, and then in individual tests, if I need to do something else or test something different, I'll do let test subject, and then set it up there. So babbling. Subject. So yeah, we pass into the subject block factory girl.create transaction. So this will go ahead and create whatever we've defined here in our transaction, right? So so let's describe this amount attribute. So let's create a default product so that we know what we're testing, or set up a variable for a default product so we know what we're testing against. So we're going to build the product, right? So that's going to build our factory here. It's not going to actually save it to the database, but that doesn't really matter. But what we're looking for is we want to use whatever we've defined as the price field here, right? So where was I? Just transaction. All right. So yeah, basically what we want to say is it should equal, it should be set to the product's price by default, right? So we want to test this behavior, hence behavior-driven development. Subject amount should be equal to the default product price, right? So subject is a transaction, so basically this should fail, right? Because we're not setting it up. And we're going to do that in a callback in the model. But so we want to make sure it fails first. Yep. Fail. Oh, by the way, big decimal, pain to work with, but whenever you're using money, my understanding at least is that you should, because it is more accurate, and don't even ask me anything more on it, because I couldn't tell you, but you can go read about it. How about that? So transaction, yeah. So we want to do something like before create yeah, we want to set the amount of the object we're creating to the product price. If so, and we're adding that if because if we want to, maybe we want to specify when we're creating the transaction, you know, if you wanted to give a discount, you could do it this way, right? You just pass in the amount itself. So it would just use that amount. So let's go see if that worked, shall we? Bam, there we go. So now let's get into the orders. So here we've got order with transactions. So basically what we're doing is this factory is creating an order with transactions for us. So before create, we are creating a product which is going to be used when we create the transaction, right? So this create list creates a transaction, creates that transaction 5 times, and then assigns the product to be that product we just created. So yeah, basically an order will always contain one or more transactions, and a transaction will always contain a product. So we need to, yeah, we've got a block here to make an easy little factory. So one thing we can do is, well, first thing we need to do is set up our subject. So let's make our subject just the order with transactions. We won't test the order itself. If we were testing the order itself, we would be making sure that it always has transactions. So yeah, order with transactions, context. We can use context. Let's say order with any transactions. So we could test the length of it. So we didn't create a failing test for that. Well, maybe we did inadvertently because I added a comma. But so we're basically right here. I mean, this is just testing the factory itself. Yeah, I just want to see that create list is working as it's supposed to. So what we really want to test is the total amount, right? So you can use context if you don't know, if you get confused by, sometimes you'll see context, sometimes you'll see describe. These are the exact same thing. And I could have sworn, like when I first started doing it, that it behaved differently, but they're literally the same thing. So don't let it confuse you or fool you. It's just a way of saying that you're testing behavior or you're testing like an actual attribute or method is the idea behind it, right? So it should equal the sum of all its transactions. Subject total amount and it fails as we wanted it to because I don't think it's an attribute, but we haven't defined how that attribute's set yet. So let's go ahead and do that, huh? So before we want to take we want to create a method actually for this. We could probably create something like calculate total amount, and then so we take the transactions, we grab all of their amounts, which will return an array of the amounts, right? And then we use this to sum them up. So we're just passing in that, if this is confusing, we're basically passing in the plus operator, which will add them all of those amounts in the array together, right? So self amount. So let's actually go make this fail worse, because so the factory itself was a $200 item, right? So what I just passed in should that should be the number it actually comes out to. But let's just make sure that that's working, and it's going to throw us an error and say 2,000 expected 2,000 but got expected 1,000 got 2,000, right? Yeah, should equal 2,000 expected 2,000. Wait, no, I'm confused. Whatever. If we change this to 1,000, it should work, right? 200 times 5 is 1,000, so this should work now. Yay, it worked. So, yeah, that's the basics of this tutorial. Sorry it was so horrible. I don't think there was anything else I was going to cover. Let me see. I think that was the gist of it. So, yeah, I'm going to take this tutorial and build on it. I'm going to do more tutorials, and hopefully it was at least somewhat useful, and I'll try not to babble as much in the future. Go check out my website for more, bnw.io. Thanks, bye.